The observation deck of the Twilight Fang hummed with the usual sounds of a Cravathi warship, low growls, clicking claws, and the occasional snarl that passed for laughter among the apex predators of the Andromeda arm. Lyra stood at the viewport, her small human frame dwarfed by the massive starscape beyond, seemingly oblivious to the pair of eyes watching her from the shadows. Dax crouched low, his juvenile spines not yet fully hardened, his hunting instincts sharp despite his youth. Beside him, his clutchmate Vess chittered softly, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with excitement. The human had been aboard for 3 cycles now, and the young Cravathi had heard the whispers. How the prey species had somehow earned a place among warriors. How she moved through the ship without the proper fear scent that should mark her kind. It was an insult to the natural order. And Dax intended to correct it. "Watch," he hissed to Vess, his voice barely above a whisper. "I'll show you how a true predator announces themselves." The Cravathi youth had perfected the hunting roar, the sound that sent herbivores fleeing across a dozen worlds, the sound that made even adult Cravathi pause in respect. He had practiced it in the training dens, had earned his first mark for it. This tiny human, with her flat face and dull teeth, would learn what it meant to stand in the presence of a predator. Dax inhaled deeply, his chest expanding, his throat vibrating with gathering power. Then he lunged from the shadows, his claws extended, and released the roar directly behind Lyra's head, a sound that could shatter glass, that carried the weight of 1,000,000 years of evolutionary dominance. The human turned, and she smiled. Dax's roar died in his throat, strangled by something he had never experienced before, primal bone-deep terror, because what he saw in that moment rewrote everything he understood about prey and predator. Lyra's lips pulled back, revealing rows of flat white teeth. But it wasn't the teeth that froze his blood. It was the eyes. Those forward-facing, binocular eyes, predator's eyes, that locked onto him with the patience of something that had tracked prey across continents. The smile didn't reach those eyes. They remained cold, calculating, assessing him with the casual interest of a creature deciding whether he was worth the effort to hunt. In the Cravathi threat displays, baring teeth meant imminent violence. But this human expression carried something worse, amusement, as if his most fearsome roar was nothing more than the mewling of a cub. "Oh, hello there," Lyra said, her voice light and melodic. She tilted her head slightly, still smiling, still showing those teeth. "That was a very impressive roar. Were you trying to scare me?" Dax stumbled backward, his spines flattening instinctively in submission. Vess had already fled, her bioluminescent markings flashing panic signals as she scrambled into the ventilation shaft. But Dax found himself paralyzed, caught in the gaze of this small, soft creature who suddenly seemed anything but prey. The human took a step forward. Just one step. But every instinct in Dax's body screamed apex predator as she moved. There was no wasted motion, no uncertainty. Just the fluid grace of something that had earned its place at the top of the food chain through countless generations of hunting, killing and surviving. "It's okay," Lyra continued, crouching down to his level, still maintaining that unnerving eye contact. "I understand. You wanted to establish dominance, right? Show the weak human her place?" She leaned in slightly and Dax caught her scent. Not the fear scent he expected, but something else. Something that his ancestral memory recognized as dangerous. It was the scent of a persistence hunter, of a species that didn't need to be the fastest or strongest because it simply never stopped. It was the scent of a creature that would follow you across plains and mountains and oceans until your heart gave out from exhaustion. "Let me tell you something about humans," Lyra said, her smile widening fractionally. "We're not the biggest. We're not the strongest. We don't have claws or fangs or armor." She held up her hand, fingers splayed, showing the blunt nails that seemed so inadequate compared to his retractable talons. "But you know what we have?" Dax couldn't move, couldn't speak, could barely breathe. "Endurance," she whispered, "and pack tactics, and the ability to make tools that can crack planets. We didn't evolve to be impressive. We evolved to be inevitable." The observation deck's lights seemed to dim, though Dax knew it was just his vision narrowing, his body's panic response triggering. The human's smile, that God's damned smile, remained perfectly in place. "Your species hunts in explosive bursts," Lyra continued, straightening up to her full, unimpressive height. "You're ambush predators. Beautiful, efficient, terrifying to anything that stumbles into your range. But humans, we're pursuit predators. We don't need to catch you on the first run, or the second, or the 100th. We just need to outlast you. She turned back to the viewport, dismissing him as casually as one might dismiss a minor annoyance. Run along now, little one. And next time you want to frighten someone, make sure they're actually prey first. Dax didn't remember running. He only remembered finding himself back in the juvenile quarters, his heart's hammering, his breathing ragged, while Vess stared at him with wide, traumatized eyes. She smiled, he whispered, his voice hoarse. She smiled at me. The next cycle, when Lyra walked through the corridors of the Twilight Fang, young Cravathi cubs pressed themselves against the walls, their spines flat, their eyes averted. The adults noticed, of course, and some asked what had happened on the observation deck. But Dax never told them the full truth. How could he explain that in that moment, faced with a human smile, he had understood something his species had been too arrogant to recognize? Humans didn't need to look like predators. They had conquered their world and now the galaxy, by being something far more terrifying than any ambush hunter could imagine. They were the predators that smiled while they hunted, that showed their teeth in greeting and farewell, that carried the patience of extinction events in their bones. Lyra had taught him that lesson with nothing but a smile, and Dax would never forget it. The human ambassador continued her work aboard the warship, always pleasant, always helpful, always smiling. And the predators of the Twilight Fang learned to smile back, carefully, nervously, never quite certain if they were greeting a friend or acknowledging a superior hunter. In the end, they decided it didn't matter. Either way, it was safer to stay on her good side.